These are the 7 levels of NFL villains. Each level, these players will get worse and worse until we get to some of the most villainous players of all time in level 7. But to start, we have level 1.
Level 1, Fake Demon.
Here we're starting with fake demons. Now for those who don't know what that means, it essentially means they're all talk and no walk. To start, we have George Pickens. He's constantly running his mouth and getting into scuffles, but when you actually break it down, he's more bark than bite. Take his drama with Browns cornerback Greg Newsome last year, who straight up called him a fake tough guy. Instead of going up for the Hail Mary on the final play, Pickens was too busy wrestling with Newsome behind the end zone, accomplishing absolutely nothing productive for his team. This is classic Pickens behavior. He talks trash, gets into little shoving matches, and racks up dumb penalties, but he never actually backs up his tough guy act with anything meaningful. After losing to Cleveland, he blamed the snow, as if the Browns players weren't also playing in snow. He's been fined multiple times for pulling players down by their face mask and getting into pointless fights instead of making plays. All the antics, zero substance, the definition of a fake demon. Mac Jones is a perfect example here as well. Jones has developed quite the reputation for cheap shots that cross the line. He kicked Bears safety Jaquan Brisker directly in the crotch during a slide, a move that looked identical to Tom Brady's infamous kick on Ed Reed. The difference? Brady was a champion, and Jones was getting benched for Bailey Zappi. Then there's this incident with former Jets cornerback Sauce Gardner, where he allegedly delivered a low blow during a quarterback sneak pile. Gardner called him out publicly, but Jones deflected like a coward, claiming he was just saying good job to the defense. Calais Campbell specifically called Jones kinda disrespectful with his trash talk, saying it crossed the line beyond normal competitive banter. Jones acts tough with cheap shots and disrespectful trash talk, but he's just a mediocre quarterback throwing tantrums. It seems like he's settled down now because he's been pretty good with the 49ers and there hasn't been anything. But we'll see. Lastly, we have Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju built his reputation on trash talking and delivering cheap shots after getting a call in the Super Bowl in 2022. He called out the Eagles during Valentine's Day right after. And during the Chiefs-Lions game this season, he threw a blindside block on Brian Branch that started their beef. But when Branch finally had enough and threw a punch at the end of the game, Juju got absolutely bodied. Photos showed him with a bloodied nose, looking completely defeated after getting rocked by a real crash out in Brian Branch. Colts linebacker Zaire Franklin perfectly summed up how players feel about Juju. He essentially said Juju needed this for a minute. He's been pretty much begging for it for a long time. All the TikTok dancing and trash talk in the world couldn't save him when somebody actually threw hands. These players were fake demons, who could either trash talk, get into scuffles, but mostly would just talk a lot. Next up, we have some people who are legit crash outs.
Level 2, Legit Crash Out.
Crash outs are people who essentially just see red and destroy everything that's in front of them, regardless of who or what that is. And nobody fits that description better than DK Metcalf. His most infamous incident came against Fred Warner in 2023. After Warner intercepted a pass and flipped the ball to a teammate, Metcalf suplexed him to the turf, then grabbed 2 fistfuls of Warner's face mask when he retaliated. Metcalf got ejected and fined $19,000, claiming he was just responding to Warner for hitting him first. That's just one example. NFL Network called him ripping a teammate's helmet off and swinging it as a weapon during a training camp fight. Against the Bears, he headbutted Tyreek Stevenson after exchanging shoves, earning another unnecessary roughness penalty. Metcalf was fined 5 separate times in 2023 alone, totaling over $75,000 for unnecessary roughness, unsportsmanlike conduct, and blindside blocks. He doesn't just talk, he acts violently. The same goes with Cortland Finnegan. Finnegan built his career around trash talking and agitating star receivers. He was described as a master at getting under the skin of players, using his annoying antics to draw penalties and get opponents ejected. His trash talking demeanor would eventually clash with quiet players who just wanted to play football. And that was when he met Andre Johnson in 2010. After years of harassment, Johnson finally snapped. What followed was a legendary beatdown where Johnson absolutely destroyed Finnegan on the field. Both got ejected and fined $25,000, but only one walked away with his reputation intact. We mentioned him a bit earlier, but Brian Branch is a legitimate crash out who doesn't just talk, he's actually about it. Branch has been fined over $100,000 in just 3 NFL seasons, racking up more than a dozen penalties for his aggressive behavior, and even giving fans the middle finger after getting ejected. His best moment came against Juju after the Chiefs-Lions game, like we had mentioned before. His hit against Juju was so vicious that he got suspended for a full game, and even after trying to appeal it, the league upheld it just because he's that much of a menace. We also can't forget about the dynamic duo of Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans. Every time they were lined up against each other 2 times a year, it was pure cinema. Neither one of these players would I actually say are vicious or have any intent to hurt anybody other than each other when they would play. punches, trash talking, and fights, many fights, has to put them both on this list. Another reckless player is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. CGJ has been on like 4 different teams even though he's really good because of his behavior on and off the field. Calling out teammates, getting into fights, his headhunting ability, all combined into a reckless player. He deserves to be here but no higher. He's not purposefully dangerous, just a little bit out there. Derwin James rounds out this crew with his pattern of dangerous hits that borderline cross the line. James has been fined over $127,000 throughout his career for repeated helmet-to-helmet contacts and hits on defensive players. He's racked up 7 unnecessary roughness penalties since 2018, tied for the second most in the NFL despite playing fewer games than anybody else on that list. He delivered a helmet-to-helmet on Pratt Freiermuth, earning him a 1-game suspension. James was also fined over $17,000 for a leg whip tackle on Raiders running back Ashton Jeanty just this season. When he sees a target, he destroys it regardless of the safety rules. In level 2, we started heating up, but I wouldn't call these guys villains, just kinda reckless. Level 2, we get to some people that are actually on the borderline.
Level 3, possible villain.
First up, we have Azeez Al-Shaair. Azeez Al-Shaair sits perfectly on the possible villain category. He's had multiple dirty incidents that suggest a pattern, but he's right on the borderline. His most notorious incident was the brutal hit on Trevor Lawrence that left the Jags quarterback with a concussion and displaying the fencing response. Al-Shaair hit Lawrence in the head after he was already sliding, sparking a massive brawl. He was ejected and later suspended for multiple games. But that wasn't an isolated incident. Earlier that season, he punched Bears running back Roschon Johnson on the sideline and delivered a questionable hit on Caleb Williams. He was fined over $11,000 for the punch. Even after returning from suspension, he got away with another dirty hit on Chargers QB Justin Herbert during the playoffs. One more incident, and he crosses the line. Same goes with Frankie Louvu. Frankie Louvu is another borderline villain who's building a concerning pattern of dirty plays. Louvu has been fined multiple times for hip drop tackles, including incidences against the Falcons, Chiefs, and most recently, the Seahawks' Jackson Smith-Njigba, which earned him a $100,000 fine and initially a 1-game suspension that was later overturned. His most controversial moment came in the playoff win against the Lions when he delivered an unflagged helmet-to-helmet hit on Jared Goff that led directly to a pick six. That play gave Washington a crucial 24-14 lead in their upset victory. Despite the fines and criticism, Louvu refuses to change his approach. He claims he doesn't understand what constitutes a hip drop tackle, but the pattern suggests otherwise. Dre Greenlaw also fits perfectly in here. He keeps finding himself in controversial situations that really push the limits. He was caught on camera appearing to purposely knee a Vikings player while they were down. He's also been fined for shoving Cardinals tight end Trey McBride during a sideline scuffle, earning a $14,000 fine. His most notable villain moment came against the Eagles when he got into an altercation with Philadelphia's head of security, Big Dom. Greenlaw reached over a scuffle to contact Big Dom's face with a closed fist, getting him ejected from the game. Most recently, Greenlaw was suspended for a game for an incident with an official after a game, showing his confrontational behavior extends beyond just players. He's right on the edge into crossing over into full-time villain. Kiko Alonso rounds out this group with a disturbing pattern of targeting sliding QBs. Alonso's most infamous incident was his brutal hit on Joe Flacco in 2017. After Flacco slid feet first, Alonso delivered a vicious blow to the head that knocked off his helmet and left him with a bloodied concussion and a cut ear. Ravens players were outraged, with Jeremy Maclin calling it a dirty play, and Ronnie Stanley saying Alonso should have been ejected. Alonso has a documented history of dirty hits on quarterbacks. He was fined for a hit on Ryan Fitzpatrick and was involved in the controversial play where Brian Hoyer tore his ACL after sliding. Right before his retirement, he was ejected for another late hit on sliding Josh Allen, sparking another brawl. His repeated targeting of defenseless quarterbacks puts him right on the border for villain territory. Level 4, we actually get to some villains.
Level 4, villain.
First here we have Mike Mitchell. The former Steelers safety was an absolute menace who made a career of headhunting and celebrating injuries. Mitchell had this disgusting habit of targeting players' heads and then acting like he was just playing hard football. That hit on Tyler Eifert was absolutely sickening. Mitchell used the crown of his helmet to concuss Eifert, then had the audacity to pose with his arms crossed, celebrating the injury. Mitchell tried to concuss AJ Green multiple times, dove headfirst into victory formation to spear players, and celebrated almost every single injury he's caused. The man was a walking CTE machine who took pride in hurting people, and the same goes with Ryan Clark. The former Steelers safety straight up admitted to intentionally trying to injure opponents. His most notorious incident was the brutal shot he delivered to Wes Welker's chest on a tip ball, propelling Welker backwards and leaving him flat on his back with his head hitting the turf. Welker didn't return to the game. Clark received an unnecessary roughness penalty for hitting the defenseless receiver and faced potential NFL disciplinary action. But nothing really came of that, and he's talking on TV now. Albert Haynesworth was a legit villain whose most infamous act shocked the entire NFL. The 6'6", 320-pound defensive tackle was already known as a scary, intimidating player who used his size and athleticism to dominate, but his reputation as a dirty player was cemented by one egregious act. His brutal head-stomping and face-kicking of Cowboys lineman Andre Gurode in 2006. After Julius Jones scored a touchdown, Gurode's helmet came off and he was lying defenseless on the ground. Gurode received multiple stitches above his forehead and beneath his eye. Even Albert Haynesworth's teammates, Kevin Mawai, called him out for being unnecessarily aggressive in practice. Then you have Hines Ward. If you're noticing a pattern, I'm proud of you. The Steelers wide receiver was so dirty that the NFL literally had to change the rules because of him. Ward's crackback blocks were so vicious and so consistently targeting defenseless players that the league called it the Hines Ward rule to protect defenders from his blindside hits. What made Ward's play so infuriating was how he celebrated it. The smile after every dirty hit made it even worse. He looked like he took genuine pleasure in hurting people. Aqib Talib was a legit villain who combined dirty play with complete disregard for consequences. Talib's most notable incidents involved his obsession with ripping Michael Crabtree's gold chain off his neck, not once, but twice in consecutive years during Broncos-Raider games, sparking a massive brawl that got both players ejected and suspended for 2 games. But Talib's villain behavior went beyond chain snatching. He admitted to intentionally grabbing Philly Brown's face mask in Super Bowl 50 because he was mad at the refs, showing his willingness to hurt opponents out of frustration. He also got into a sideline scuffle with Titans receiver Harry Douglas, ripping off his helmet and daring the entire Titans team to fight him. We also have Brandon Merriweather here. The former safety was such a headhunter that he made a career out of trying to give opponents brain damage. That hit on Eddie Lacy was absolutely sickening. Merriweather used his head as a spear and knocked out Lacy from a game. It wasn't just one bad play or one heated moment, it was his entire approach to a game. The fact that James Starks had to come in and deliver some payback shows just how much opposing players hated Merriweather's dirty tactics. And finally, we have Rodney Harrison. Harrison was voted one year the dirtiest player in the NFL. He accumulated 18 unnecessary roughness penalties, 7 personal fouls, 4 roughing the passer penalties, and a total of 77 penalties throughout his career. He was suspended for a helmet-to-helmet hit on Jerry Rice in 2002. And that was something he was notorious for. Helmet-to-helmet hits, late hits that cost him thousands of dollars in fines. Even opponent coaches, like Jeff Fisher, accused him of laughing at injured players. These guys were definitely villains for their time, but they have nothing on the next group.
Level 5, Menace.
These guys were actual menaces to society. And Richie Incognito fits that mold better than anybody. Incognito's most notorious incident was his systematic harassment and bullying of teammate Jonathan Martin in Miami. He left threatening voicemail using racial slurs and sexual slurs, calling Martin names, and threatened him and his family with violent acts. But this was just the latest in a career-long pattern of disturbing behavior. At Nebraska, he was shuttled to anger management classes for constant blow-ups and fights. Oregon kicked him out after just 1 week for failing to meet behavioral conditions. His own teammate called his behavior really kinda taking it too far. Incognito represents what happens when football culture enables truly toxic behavior. And the same goes with Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown transformed from NFL superstar to legit menace to society through a series of increasingly disturbing incidents. Brown's downfall really began after Vontaze Burfict's hits. His legal troubles escalated dramatically. He was charged with multiple felonies for allegedly assaulting a moving truck driver, facing potential life imprisonment. He received an 8-game NFL suspension for violating the personal conduct policy and was involved in a $30 million grievance against the Raiders for voided guarantees. Most recently, Brown was arrested on attempted charges after a celebrity boxing event in Miami. From his bizarre mid-game exit in Tampa, stripping off his jersey and running shirtless off the field to facing attempted charges, Brown represents a complete fall from grace into genuine criminal behavior. We also had Deshaun Watson, who's kinda obvious. The Cleveland Browns quarterback got suspended 11 games and fined $5 billion following a settlement between the NFL and NFLPA after more than 24 women accused him of sexual misconduct during massage therapy sessions. The Browns then gave Watson a fully guaranteed $230 million contract despite knowing about the allegations. They both are at fault here. From back in the day, we have Steve Wisniewski, earning over $65,000 in fines in 1995 alone, and was labeled one of the dirtiest players in the NFL. He was known for using karate-like moves that produced 10 pounds of pressure to stop pass rushers, often resulting in holding penalties when caught by officials. Despite never being ejected in 13 seasons, Wisniewski's reputation for dirty play was legendary throughout his career. Brian Cox was also a menace whose hatred for Buffalo Bills fans became truly legendary and hilarious. Cox's most infamous moment came in 1993 when he emerged from the tunnel at Rich Stadium and raised both middle fingers high. The NFL fined him $10,000, but Cox sued the league seeking safety protocols for players facing fan abuse. He was later ejected from a 1995 game for fighting and spat theatrically towards fans, calling Buffalo fans a different breed of species. We also have someone who had a crazy act in Ray Rice. The former Baltimore Ravens running back was initially suspended for just 2 games for knocking out his then-fiancée Janae Palmer in an Atlantic City elevator. But when the video leaked showing Rice's brutal punch, Commissioner Goodell suspended him indefinitely, and the Ravens cut him immediately. This essentially ended his time in the league, and nobody's really heard about him since. Lastly, we have Patrick Mahomes. Now, Patrick Mahomes has become the NFL's villain not through dirty play, but sheer dominance. Fans create conspiracy theories about referees helping the Chiefs, with memes of Mahomes kissing officials flooding social media after every win. Bills and Ravens fans still don't want to talk about him because of ripping their hearts out year after year. That's just what happens when you win, though. These guys were absolute menaces. However, next up, we have some legendary villains.
Level 6, Legendary Villains.
These guys are almost in the top tier, they're just not there yet. In the start, we have James Harrison. Harrison accumulated over $100,000 in fines throughout his career for his dirty tactics, including late hits on quarterbacks and numerous unnecessary roughness calls. His reputation was so fearsome that Antonio Brown, who we mentioned before, blamed him for giving him CTE, claiming Harrison used an illegal helmet for over 20 years, and that one hit made him super aggressive. Players and fans alike considered him the ultimate villain, who may have been fined on numerous occasions, but that didn't really help players who came up against him. His 2008 season with 17 sacks and a 100-yard pick six in the Super Bowl cemented his villain legacy. He'd wait for receivers to be completely vulnerable, then launch himself like a missile into their heads and necks. But that's nothing on Jack Tatum, the assassin. The former Raiders safety was so dirty that he literally paralyzed the player and showed zero remorse about it. Tatum's hit on Darryl Stingley ended Stingley's career and left him paralyzed for life. And Tatum never once apologized or showed any regret about destroying another human being's life. He wrote a book called They Call Me the Assassin, where he bragged about trying to hurt people and end careers. The man took genuine pleasure in causing life-altering injuries and saw it as his job to destroy people. Ndamukong Suh was a legendary villain who was voted the NFL's dirtiest player by his peers for 2 consecutive years. Suh's most infamous moment came in Thanksgiving 2011, when he pushed Packers lineman Evan Smith's head into the ground 3 times before stomping on his arm. He was ejected and suspended 2 games, initially claiming he was just trying to regain his balance before admitting he made a mistake. His villain resume includes kicking Texans quarterback Matt Schaub in the groin area, earning a $30,000 fine, stepping on Aaron Rodgers' calf in 2014. He received a $100,000 fine in 2013, the largest for an on-field action in league history at the time for a low block on John Sullivan. His combination of elite talent and consistently dirty play made him an NFL legendary villain. Next up in this group, we have Ray Caruth. Taken with the 27th overall pick in the 1997 draft, he's one of the worst draft picks of all time. Not just for his on-field play, which was awful, but he was also sentenced to prison for 18 years for offing his then-girlfriend, pregnant with their child. He's rightfully hated. These guys were awful. They're just not the worst of all time like we have next.
Level 7, the biggest villains.
These are the biggest villains of all time, and there's 5. Tom Brady, Bill Romanowski, Vontaze Burfict, Conrad Dobler, and Aaron Hernandez. First is Vontaze Burfict. The former Bengals linebacker was so consistently dirty that he single-handedly changed how the NFL handles repeat offenders. Burfict didn't just cross the line, he obliterated it. That hit on Antonio Brown in the 2016 playoff game was headhunting described as football, giving him a concussion that affected him for years and still is affecting him today. What made Burfict the dirtiest player of the modern era was his intelligence about being dirty. He'd study film to find opponents' previous injuries, then target those exact spots. Had his knee surgery, Burfict would go low. History of concussions, he'd aim for your head. The man turned dirty play into a science. He got suspended so many times that the NFL eventually just banned him from the league entirely. Then you have Conrad Dobler. The former Cardinals guard was so dirty that Sports Illustrated literally called him the dirtiest player in pro football on their cover. Dobler made a career out of eye gouging, biting, and using every illegal tactic imaginable to gain an advantage. What made Dobler legendary in his dirtiness was his creativity. While other players just threw punches or made late hits, Dobler would bite opponents and use techniques that belonged in street fights, not a football game. The man turned being a psychopath into an art form. Another psychopath is Bill Romanowski. The former linebacker was completely insane, who made his teammates afraid of him and opposing players terrified. Romanowski didn't just play dirty, he lived dirty, using steroids, spitting on people, and breaking teammates' faces in practice. That incident where Romanowski broke Marcus Williams' eye socket during practice shows just how unhinged he really was. This wasn't even a game, it was practice, with his own teammate, and Romanowski still felt the need to throw a punch that ended Williams' career. When you're assaulting your own teammates, you've crossed into the territory that has nothing to do with football. The man was a walking felony who happened to be good at football. We have Aaron Hernandez next, and we all know about that one. Lastly, the ultimate villain is Tom Brady. Brady's villain status wasn't built on dirty play, but on relentless winning that made him insufferable to everyone outside of New England for a time. You loved him, then you hated him, then once he went to Tampa, you loved him again. His transformation from underdog to the most annoying winner and to officially the GOAT was complete. Even when teams thought they had him beat, he'd somehow find a way to crush their dreams. Brady didn't just win, he destroyed hope itself, making him the ultimate NFL villain. And so there you have it, the 7 levels of NFL villains. Subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.